Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Committee on Higher Education. It is approximately 3 o'clock. We are in room 229, and this meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will convene to discuss any outstanding business on February 6th at 3 p.m. in conference room 229, and a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. There is a 2-minute time limit per testifier. And so I'd like to introduce my committee members. To my right, Vice Chair Senator Kidani, and to her right is our newest member, Senator, God, I can't even remember your name, no, Troy Hashimoto, and Senator Fukunaga on my left. And with that, we will start with our first item on the agenda, which is Senate Bill 2817. This is relating to the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. It appropriates funds to the University of Hawaii to establish 5 administrative, professional, and technical full-time equivalents positions at the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, and declares the general fund ceiling to be exceeded. We have testifying Christian Fern from the Hawaii Professional Assembly for the University of Hawaii on Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We have Brian Miyamoto testifying for the Farm Bureau, and Brian is here in person.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We will stand on our written testimony and support our extension service. Extremely important to our farmers and ranchers, and they provide the knowledge that our farmers and ranchers depend on for their success. So thank you for hearing the bill, Chair.
Okay, why don't you sit there for now? That's all we have that's signed up. Oh, okay, can you, yes. I don't know why I don't have you on the line. Okay, Brian, I'm sorry, I thought you were the last person. So. Sorry, Dean, for, did you send in your testimony?
I thought we submitted it.
Huh.
I will double check and we will send it to the chair and vice chair and the
Yes.
rest of the committee.
Thank you.
Just in case if you don't have it. But chair, vice chair, rest of the committee, my name is Anya Wieczorek and I'm the interim dean of the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity to testify on this measure. University of Hawaii supports the intent of the bill, but we would like to respectfully ask for 2 amendments. The first amendment is to do with classification of these positions. They're right now classified as APTs, and we would like to ask that they will be classified as a faculty. And the reason for that is that all current extension agents and specialists at CTAR are right now classified as a faculty positions, and Hawaii revised statute that extension positions should be classified as a faculty. Also, the APT positions and the faculty positions belong to the 2 different bargaining units. You know, one is Unit 7 and one is Unit 8, so that is causing the problem. And the second amendment that I would like to ask for is to respectfully ask the funds that support this position be general funds. And the reason for that is that is much better for our stakeholders. And the reason why is that better is that only general funds can be used for the permanent positions. And for us to recruit the top-notch candidates for these positions, they would need to be permanent positions, otherwise the top people are not going to apply for permanent positions. But on that matter, thank you so much for letting me to testify, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dean. Why don't you sit there? Anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Hearing and seeing none. So just as a background, so last year we passed a measure, right? Similar
correct,
measure,
yes.
and it was 5 positions.
There were 5
Right.
positions.
And you
yeah.
did make a case for it to be faculty instead of APTs. I believe we changed that.
Yeah, so
right?
originally the bill that was submitted had the faculty positions, but then somewhere in the process, these positions were turned into APTs.
Oh,
So what passed was that APT positions, and because of the reasons that I mentioned, These have been vetoed by the
Right.
governor
And also the funding.
and the funding.
And I think what happened was the author just took that last year's bill and reprinted because it has both of that.
Yeah,
in
I'm
it,
not
the
sure
funding.
how that happened, but we are very thankful to the author of the bill for submitting this bill, and the author is aware that we're asking for these measures.
Okay, and let me just clarify one thing, though. You said that to be permanent, it would have to be out of the general funds, but I believe that it can still be permanent if it was with special funds.
My understanding, and that might be a little bit over my pay grade, but my understanding is that to have a permanent faculty position, it has to be on the general funds.
So you should double check that because they have a number of permanent faculty that we didn't approve, but the university did. The only drawback and why they don't want to use it on the special funds is that they have to pay the fringe. And under the general funds, then we pay the fringe. So they have over $20 million worth of faculty that has been on tuition funding, and we were paying the fringe for many years, which was never codified in law. And so that's why they don't want it.
Well,
under
thank
there.
you for bringing that up. I will bring that question to the Provost Bruno, and I'll make him
Yeah,
aware.
he should be well aware of that. Okay, members, any questions of Dean and University of Hawaii or Farm Bureau? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is Senate Bill 2008 relating to the University of Hawaii tuition, and it allows certain lawful permanent residents and certain refugees and DACA aliens who are not lawfully present in the United States to be eligible for the resident tuition fee at any University of Hawaii campus under certain conditions. Let's see, we have Victor Ramos, an individual in opposition. Anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Hearing none, members, there's nobody to ask questions of? Oh, someone on Zoom, are you here for
Yes.
2008? Okay, can you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Farah Marie Gomes, Associate Vice President for Student Affairs with the University of Hawaii System.
Okay, I do have this on, I apologize. Go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. We did submit our testimony, and I believe it was marked in as late. So we appreciate the intent of this legislation and wanted to provide some comments to help ensure clarity and alignment with existing laws and university policies. I have three that I just wanted to highlight first. There is reference to residing in Hawaii for 3 months, and that is a direct contradiction with our Hawaii administrative rules, which requires a minimum of 12 months of physical presence. So as currently written, this would be a lower threshold than we hold our current residents to. The second concern we wanted to point out is, and it may just not be clear to us in terms of under what conditions a student is not eligible to enroll at another institution across the country, but would be eligible to enroll at a university campus. And so we are happy to engage in additional conversation to try to understand the purpose behind that section of the bill. And finally, for the protection of student privacy, we are concerned that this bill would require DACA students to declare their immigration status. And this is something that we are seriously concerned about and would recommend a revision to the current bill as proposed. We're happy to continue conversations to gain clarity and provide additional amendments so that we can avoid unintended consequences. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Senator Kidani.
Thank you. Can you answer who is responsible to check a student's residency status?
We have one residency officer at each campus.
One residency officer at each campus. And
Yes.
so they check it upon being admitted or when?
Yes, residency officers report to the admissions offices on all of the campuses.
No, I'm asking if they check the student's residency upon admittance or before when they're applying.
That is at the point of admission.
And would these students then qualify for student aid?
Depending on their classification, some of them may be eligible, and we have different requirements for different pots of funds. So there may be federal aid that is separate from state aid and institutional aid. So there's a variety of funds, and these students may be eligible for any variety of those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, members? I have a question. So is this something that you folks, the University of Hawaii, can choose to do without a bill?
It is something that we could choose to do. However, I believe that part of the conversation here has to do with equity in terms of all
I'm sorry, I'm losing you.
it is something that we can do. As you're aware, we have a regents policy that provides differentials to our non-resident tuition. However, it is about balancing the various types of student populations that come to us. And so looking at the priorities of our student groups and making sure that it is aligned with the philosophy of the university and our mission.
Okay, well, that's one of the reasons why I tried to put all of the bills together, because, cumulative, what that impact would be to the University of Hawaii. And if you folks already have the ability to do the differentials, then you would be the ones to best do it, especially if it's a unfunded mandate, that we're relying on you folks to make these waivers or tuition, residential tuition that would impact your budget. Is that correct?
That is correct, Senator. And I believe that the unfunded mandate part of this is a concern for us because without the differential between resident and non-resident tuition, there is a cost that the institution still has to cover for being able to provide instruction for all of our different student populations.
And I know the authors of many of these measures do it with good intentions, but I know we often, and I do, get criticized all the time for trying to micromanage and tell the university how to run and how to get their tuition dollars. And so with that sense, I'm hoping that these are areas that you folks will be looking into and probably report back to us so that maybe we won't have these measures come up on a regular basis. Because we have a couple others, obviously, today.
Yes.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we are going on to Senate Bill 2105, relating to higher education, authorize students who are individuals from COFA nation, refugees, or special immigration visa holders to qualify for resident tuition within the University of Hawaii system under certain conditions. And testifying on 2105, we have again, Ms. Gomes.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Farah Marie Gomes again. I do also want to recognize that our official in-university testimony was submitted by Deborah Halbert, our Vice President for Academic Strategy.
Yes, we have.
With regard to this bill, again, we appreciate the intent and have provided comments. Some of them are different than what I mentioned in the previous bill, so I'll cover them real quickly here. Three, again, the first one, we have reference to attending elementary school 3 years immediately before a high school diploma, which technically is not possible. And so we would ask for clarification with the language in that section of the bill. There's another section of the bill with regard to attending schools in another state or territory of the United States, the District of Columbia, or the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. Again, this means there would be no required physical presence in the state of Hawaii prior to admission, and that contradicts the Hawaii administrative rule, which requires a minimum 12 months. So we again point out the lower threshold that this would have when compared to our residents. And finally, we want to point out that the next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 3187, if that passes, then the section in this bill which states just requiring a high school diploma or high school equivalency in the state may not be necessary. So that would just matter on the outcome of the next bill as it comes out. Again, appreciate the intent of this bill and happy to continue conversations to better understand the purpose and intent. And happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Let's see, we have a couple others that's here to have signed up, but I'm not sure that they're here. We have Giovanni Dela Cruz from the Office of Community Services, State of Hawaii, in support. Marcus Kawatachi for Hawaii Civil Rights Commission in support. Gardinas Pintor, an individual in support. And Tina testifying for Center of Advancement of Pacific Islanders at UH Manoa in opposition. So anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Hearing no one else. Again, Ms. Gomes, so you do state in this testimony that rather than enacting a change in law, the more pragmatic approach would provide the necessary flexibility while ensuring we maintain control over your tuition policies that align with your needs. So I'm sure that applies like it did to the last one.
Yes,
Correct.
that's our reference. Correct.
And, I know we have no one here that represents the Kofa nations, but there has been concerns raised in many of the communities regarding some of the homes and some of the fact that many of these homes have not been good neighbors in our communities. And so that raises a concern. So I'm disappointed that there's no one here representing the Kofa nations. With that, we will move on to the next item. Senate Bill 3187, relating to the University of Hawaii resident tuition fee, which you referred to earlier, Ms. Gomes, requiring the tuition residency rules of the University of Hawaii to grant the resident tuition for enrollment at any University of Hawaii campus to individuals who have graduated from a Hawaii high school and are enrolling in an undergraduate degree program under certain conditions. And testifying again is Ms. Gomes.
Mahalo, Chair, and aloha, Vice Chair and committee members. We have submitted testimony on behalf of the University of Hawaii in support of Senate Bill 3187. We recognize that this will increase access to higher education and also attempts to streamline our admissions process for residents and most especially for our recent high school graduates. We recognize that this will make higher education more accessible to our local residents. And this bill does it for an extended period of 4 years. We want to recognize that we know that many of our residents leave the state and sometimes don't come back. This bill provides the opportunity for those who choose to leave and for whatever reasons need to return within that 4-year period to still have the opportunity to pursue higher education with those reduced barriers. We streamline the process. We allow them to come in and upskill or pursue a different career education or career path in a relatively short period of time. So we appreciate the intent of this. We support that, and we do feel that there is potential for this bill to also help to assist some of the brain drain that we often hear spoken about with regard to the talent and intellectual capacity of our local residents going away. So again, we support this bill and thank you for this opportunity to testify. I'm here to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. Stephen Schatz, testifying for P20 partnerships in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, questions? Questions? Senator Kirani.
Thank you. So does the university have a count now as to how many of the students use the tuition residency?
How many?
How many students at the UH have use the criteria for the tuition residency that lowers their tuition?
Are you asking about the non-resident tuition differential?
No,
Or the,
I'm asking what % of your students use tuition residency to get lower tuition?
okay, so the amount of students that qualify for resident rate tuition.
Yes.
Yeah, so that varies across our different campuses, and right now I can give you the number for the spring, which is the semester that we are in right now. By residency status. We do have that, and I can give you a historic number as well if you want me to send it to your office.
Send it to the committee.
Okay, we can do that.
Any other questions?
And the second question would be, how many students who have enrolled trying to use residency have been denied for some reason or other?
I can check with our campus residency officers to see what those numbers are, and I can get that back to the committee as well.
Okay, and the reason for denial too. Thank you.
Okay.
As far, as far as resident tuition, do we have any idea as to when students come in and if they don't, well, let me just say that, the university have the ability to waive stuff. Do we know how many or what proportion of students that the university have in fact waived so that students could take advantage of or be considered a resident?
We know how many students are awarded the non-resident tuition differential. Yes.
Okay, can you provide that? Yeah, because you folks have that ability now, and so you do it for whatever reasons, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay, it would be good to see what that percentage and for what reasons that you folks have waived it. Like if you do it for military dependence, I'm not sure what it might be, but.
Yes, we have them sorted by categories.
Okay.
We can provide that.
And then we had a bill last year. I mean, I know in the beginning, the university supported a two-year waiver or a two-year window. And so this bill gives them a 4-year window. So
Yes.
you've increased that window. I know the House have asked for a larger window, but this is what you're comfortable with, the 4-year window.
We are comfortable with the 4 years. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 2055 relating to the University of Hawaii establishes a 3-year summer tuition pilot program to provide funding to the University of Hawaii community colleges to offset the cost, aligning the resident tuition rates for the summer semester with the resident tuition rates for the spring and fall semester at the community colleges. And appropriates funds. We have Carlos from Leeward Community College, right?
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Carlos Peñalosa, Leeward Community College's Chancellor, sitting here on behalf of Mike Unabasami. We've submitted written testimony and stand by our testimony on this summer tuition.
I'm not going to let you get away that easy. Because, the public watching, they have no idea
yeah.
when you say stand on your testimony, so.
Sure thing. So this bill asks for a 3-year pilot to offer basically year-round tuition, so no differential between spring, fall, and summer. Right now, the community colleges offer summer tuition at a slightly higher rate. The intent is to flatten that so that it's the same tuition all year round. The community colleges already intend to pilot this, so we're doing our due diligence at this point to offer this because we do see it as a benefit to students, especially For recent high school graduates that want to start in the summer, so that we reduce some of that summer melt. So if students take their summers off or get a job, they're less likely to come to college in the fall. The other thing that will happen is that between the spring semester and the fall semester, because of that lengthy summer gap, if students are not encouraged to come to college because it's a higher tuition rate, they're also more unlikely to come back for the next fall. And so the community colleges are already working on this pilot to offer the same tuition in the summers.
I'm going to ask, why do you folks have a differential now?
Sure, so the differential is because our faculty have typically been hired as 9-month faculty that operate fall and spring semesters. And so in order for us to offer the summer classes, we have to hire instructors in the summer and pay out of what would typically be the tuition dollars or special funds at the negotiated salary rates, which makes it really difficult to break even for those summer classes. And so it's a higher scale. There's also lesser enrollment in the summer than there is in the typical spring and fall semester, so the classes are not as big.
So how do you then flatten out if that's the case?
So right now, because we do have certain dollars, and Mike Unabasami is probably best to answer this, but because we do collect revenue from tuition, and because summer classes have been increasing in volume, we should be able to manage the differential. And so the community colleges will pilot it for the next couple of years. And if there's a need to come back to the legislature to help offset that difference, then we will make that ask.
So here's a question that might be above your pay grade, but I am very much aware, which we're going to bring up at the end of the last agenda item, is that you have I-9s teaching, so you have to be I-11, right? Normally, if you're an I-11, and that's the classification members, then you teach summer. But according to the records that we've been given by Manoa, more than half of the I-11s do not teach summer when we ask the question. So, or they hire a lecturer to teach the summer. So I'm hoping that should you folks do I-11s, that we don't see the same thing happening where they're supposed to teach summer and they're not teaching summer for whatever reasons. They're saying, oh, they do research or do whatever. But the whole purpose of I-11s is that they would be teaching 11 months out of the year, right?
We at the community colleges, we don't have many instructional faculty that are 11-monthers. There are very select few programs that are year-round, and so I can't speak to.
I know, but I'm just saying that's the unintended consequence that has happened, and I just don't want that repeating at the community college level. Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions for? Yes.
One
go ahead.
question, I actually should have asked this of the other testifier on the other bills, but do you have many homeless students? And how do you check their residency if they're homeless?
Sure. So we do have homeless students. They don't typically identify as homeless students. At the time of registration and application, they may indicate a residency. The way that, at the very least at Leeward Community College, we assess homelessness is through surveys and if they self-identify to our staff because they're in need of additional support. The residency status, though, is something that our registrars manage, and they need documentation to assist with the tuition rates. And so the homeless population may be transiently homeless and not permanently homeless at the time that they're registering. Probably not the best source of information beyond that.
Okay, no, I'm just curious because those are the very ones that need the tuition waivers.
Absolutely, and we do have some wraparound supports to help them with resources, but they have to self-identify as homeless.
And so is that information delivered to the high school so that they can give it to their seniors who, you know, I'm sure if they're coming to you, they've
Sure.
probably graduated from one of our local high schools.
Actually, yes, so for some of the more local programs, like later on we'll speak about Waianae Moku, for example, we do have specific programs to help support that local community, we will make that information available to those high schools.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have Candace Park from Deputy Attorney General.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the
Afternoon.
committee. Just want to point out the concern with Article 10, Section 6 of the state constitution and recommend inserting language that this is a matter of statewide concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES, a grassroots initiative specializing in arts and education. So to break the ice on this conversation of free education for community colleges, it's a hard topic to talk about.
It's not free tuition.
Oh, it's not free tuition?
No.
I'm testifying for the wrong one.
Yeah. This is 2055 on a 3-year summer tuition pilot program to even out the rates. Wait, what's that wrong? It's not free tuition.
I should have testified for the last one.
The last one was residency.
Residency. So I was basically going to point to our neighborhood board's resolution about free universal community college and
That's not
tuition.
on the agenda today.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, hearing none, we're moving on to Senate Bill 2970, relating to access to education, appropriates funds to Leeward Community College, Waianae Moku, to support and assist students who are 24 years old or younger and ineligible to apply for federal financial assistance through the free application for federal student aid application because they are unable to access their parents' tax information. And again, we have let me start with the AG. So AG, and then we'll get to Carlos, because I know there'll be a lot of questions, Carlos.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Same concern here with Article 10, Section 6 of the state constitution. Thank you.
Got it, thank you. Okay, now Carlos.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. We submitted written testimony, but again, just to share a little bit more about this bill. Community colleges especially do have a subset of the population that are unable to submit for the free application for federal aid, so FAFSA, because they are unable to retrieve parental information on their taxes. This results in them being unable to receive aid to cover tuition and additional expenses. In fact, some state aid as well as scholarships rely on FAFSA as a determinant on whether they will receive aid. This can happen at the onset of registration or while they're students. And we know that the outcomes of students that actually receive the Pell Grant or any level of financial aid is significantly higher than that of the students that don't receive any aid. And so what the bill intends to do is require Leeward Community College at Waianae Moku to develop a program, excuse me, that will identify students that fall into this category of 24 years of age and younger that are unable to submit their FAFSA application and provide resources to help them in their educational journey. For the sake of Leeward Community College, in our testimony, we shared the composition. About 70%, close to 70% of our students are not receiving the Pell Grant.
24%?
So actually, the testimony number got flipped. So 69% actually don't get federal aid. And so the larger population don't submit their FAFSA. But given the enrollment numbers at Waianae Moku that are under 24 years of age, we identify about 50 students that would be potentially eligible under this bill. Given the different numbers that we could play with, so for example, tuition at the community colleges is about $3,400 a year, including fees for a full-time student. That's one number that we can work with. The other one is what Pell covers for students, which is a maximum of $7,300 a year per student. And so if we were to enact a program to support these students, it would cost for this subset of the population anywhere between $160,000 and $370,000 a year to cover either just tuition or what Pell would cover should the student have been able to apply. The other situation that we are working with is that students that enroll at Leeward Community College don't enroll by site. And so we have our Pearl City campus, we have our Waianae Moku site. The students don't enroll by site. They could register for classes on any of the campuses, but they just register for Leeward Community College. And so identifying these students would take a little bit of work, should we put the program together to support them.
Okay. Why don't you sit there and let me see if there's, I don't have anyone else wishing to testify in person. There's 2, 4, 6, about 7 other people that sit there in support. Anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, hearing none, members, questions? I have questions. So this is targeted only for Waianae Moku,
That's right.
correct?
That's right.
But do we have these types of students across the island?
We do. We do, in fact.
So would we be discriminating and only allowing for one portion of the island, which you really can't tell if it's only Waianae, because like you said, they come to the community college and don't identify by area?
That's right. And so we would be selecting based on where they enroll into a class. So if they enroll into a Waianae Moku class, or if they happen to have a Waianae zip code. That would be how we would identify them. But these students exist system-wide. In fact, the 50 students are based out of an enrollment of about 500 students at Waianae Moku. We have about 6,000 just at Leeward Community College.
So what would you say to a student who comes and say, oh, so-and-so, is in the same situation as me and they're able to get, how come I'm not getting it?
It would create a burden because we would want to support the students equally. And so we do try to establish programs, and we do try to identify gifts and scholarships to support these students, but the numbers would just be much, much larger if we try to make it fair.
So if we did this across the board, what would we be looking at? And how do you manage it?
So every college has a slightly different demographic, but I would say that if 70% of our students are not receiving Pell, and of that, 70% are under the age of 24, it's a very large number. I could try to come up with some estimates that are more of a broad scope, but I think that $370,000 for only 50 students, we'd be looking at that multiplied a couple hundred times.
And where would this funding come from?
Right now, it would be the state.
So it'd be the legislature, because you can't fund that through your tuition.
Not this extent of funding, no.
Okay, members, further questions?
Yeah, I have a
Senator.
question. I guess I'm sitting here wondering if you guys realize that there's a lot of students that could be in your classrooms, but are not because they can't get this information. So what are you guys doing to try and fix this problem? There must be other states that have gone through this and have something else that they're trying to do. And this is not just a UH problem, because they're gonna be on our welfare rolls for ages, because they can't get jobs.
So as community colleges, we do go to the different high schools and host events to get this information out to the community, to the potential students, to the high school counselors, and to parents. There are trust issues with trying to submit the FAFSA application for federal aid and any other type of resources. It will take time. I don't have a really solid remedy to that, because I myself go and speak to students and parents and try to get them to submit their FAFSA, and they will get stuck on the 5th question. There is a new simplified version of the FAFSA which should help, but with that, the documentation that goes and the verification that happens then, I would consider it almost the equivalent of being audited by the IRS. And so there's a level of of fear that goes with submitting the FAFSA application and then having to submit additional documentations for verification. Hence, we have a really low rate of FAFSA completions. But we do host many workshops. We open up our doors after hours. We go to the different communities and the schools to try to get the
But the
application
students
going.
who need this, do they attend your workshops?
I would say that many of them don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
There's not been any systematic approach to help the students that we're trying to reach, that are, because we can't reach them and they are not able to go to our community colleges, they are forever going to be, using our state funds because they can't get jobs. Not that they didn't want to, they were basically turned away. So they never recover from that.
Well, just to interject, I think the responsibility got to rest with the schools, because I know when my son was at school, the school held these meetings that parents had to attend on FAFSA. And they told the students, and they made it mandatory, mandatory, but pretty much highly recommended that we attend and learn about it. So I think it had to happen at the sophomore and junior year, which is what happened about, parents understanding about the FAFSA and why it's needed. Because by the time they graduate, it's too late already. I mean, it's not too late, but I mean, you want to catch them at that while they're in school, and you have a forum and you have an auditorium that you can hold these meetings with the parents, right, to get the FAFSA.
Right.
And then that's where you show up and speak to students and parents.
Yes.
But because they don't have identification or whatever it is, and you sit and you talk to a student and you know that they want to be in your institution, they want to go to college, they have transcripts that you can get at the high school, local high school that they went to for 3 years, and you still can't say that they're a resident.
It's not just a resident, right? You have to put in the,
But that helps, it starts,
Yeah.
this.
but you guys can give them
snowball.
scholarships, right? You folks can give
Absolutely. So
scholarships.
if the students actually have interest, we will work with them and we will find resources for them. The challenge is getting them to come forward. I think that there is definitely a disconnect between, say, what we would do as outreach and getting to the right students. But if the students identify that they want to come to college, we have quite a bit of programming and scholarships, some scholarships that we've been working with donors to not require FAFSA as a condition of receiving the scholarship. And so we do have some resources to help them. We won't turn them away. If they come, we will work with them to get them registered.
But do they know that when they're in high school, are they aware that that there are these programs?
So with the growth of early college, more and more are finding access that way, more and more. But there are still some that we can't seem to get to, whether they just don't come to our events, or maybe they're not listening to us, or they don't trust us. And so we're working now with more community outreach organizations too, where we're getting to families. I think that access to younger students is through their parents, through their grandparents. They're the ones that are going to help push the younger students.
And the high schools.
And the high schools. We have strong partnerships with the high schools, but we have major gaps in terms of communication. And we try to put more resources there, but that's where we're not very resource rich. But we do attempt to go to those venues.
Senator Fukunaga.
On the Waianae Coast, I know we have quite a few of the Olelo media centers, and the Nanakuli Media Center is staffed by someone who has been in the community for a long time. Does Leeward Community College have any relationships or partnerships with the Nanakuli Media Center? I think the head is Jimbo Taylor.
I will need to ask. I don't have personal knowledge of this
Okay.
connection, but I will make sure that we make that connection if we're not already there.
Because one of the things that, he and his students had talked about, and I guess, a lot of these media centers are trying to look at how PEG access types of organizations can interact with students at an early age. I understand in the Waianae area, Representative Kila works with middle school students who then produce his videos for town meetings. And so, by interacting early with community media organizations and others, they then have a pathway, to pursue advanced education that may not necessarily be limited, to their home situations. And I know Ma'o Farms in Waianae also has a program where they, have students who work the farms and then have the ability to pursue higher education. So perhaps if we could connect you and, some of these media centers, maybe that may also provide an additional pathway, because I'm surprised that, they said that they have students who come to them and who are so interested, they start learning how to become community producers at a very young age, when they're in elementary or middle school. So then that helps give them more confidence in terms of pursuing, other kinds of activities that may go beyond, what is possible in and around their family circumstances.
I appreciate that, and I will make sure that we make that contact if we haven't already. But what I will say is that Waianae Moku is a very strong model for outreach to this population.
Okay.
That site is incredibly connected with the community, which is why we have more of the students that have some transient levels of basic needs that need to be met.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Not. Thank you, Carlos. Okay, we are moving on to our last item on the agenda, Senate Bill 2946. Requires the University of Hawaii to submit to the legislature annual reports of all university employees who perform work from a location outside the state during an applicable year, no later than December 31st of that year. Jan Govea. Thank you for.
Okay, no, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand on our testimony with comments.
Okay, I read your testimony. Let me just ask if members have questions, then I'll go more detailed. Members, any questions of Ms. Govea?
Not yet.
Okay, so you said, and I agree with you, that this is so broad, right?
Okay.
And that it could be anybody that's traveling to the mainland. So what if we put in that exceeds 60 days?
Oh, okay,
Because I know you folks turned in this report to us, and
Yep.
this is over, I don't know how many years. This is from 17 to 21, so it's not that voluminous.
no, it is not, it's a highly work-intensive effort to compile the report.
Yeah,
So
but
it
if you
is helpful
start-
to have parameters like
Right.
this, that would
And if you
be,
start out keeping track of it, then every year you either add on the new
Right.
ones and take off the old ones,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. So a
So-
60-day definitely makes it better,
Okay, so you could live with that.
yes.
And basically, members, that's to this, who are living, because if you see the report, you're gonna see there's people that's in, all over the United States, including Canada, you have people in Korea, you have people in America Samoa, you have people in, Egypt, Taiwan, you name it, India, they're all over the world, and they actually live and work there, are getting paid, they're on the payroll, right, at the University of
Yeah,
Hawaii.
I think for some of it's research, and in other times, that's exactly where the educational program is geographically delivered anyway. Due
Do
to
they
the-
pay state taxes if they're working from out of state?
That was one
Not,
of the
Ho-
questions.
not Hawaii state taxes, I don't believe.
But if they're getting, if they're an employee at the University of Hawaii, getting a University of Hawaii state check,
It's going
They're
through the payroll
supposed to-
system, so we're doing
they're
the standard
supposed to get the-
withdrawals and everything of that nature.
they're supposed to be
That's
paying
true.
some tax.
Yeah, where they actually end up filing their taxes, I don't know, that I don't know, but.
But the taxes are taken out of
Yeah,
their
yeah, it
paychecks.
runs through the regular,
So if they want it back, they gotta file.
yes, that's true too, yeah. May I also, can we say 60 consecutive days, that way we don't have, okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you can do that. Somebody goes on a trip every 5 days.
Yeah,
Well, we don't want that either, but
it'll be easier to track from a system.
understand. Yeah, we're not trying to make you jump through hoops and stay jump through hoops.
Thank you.
Today anyway.
Okay, any other questions of Ms. Govea? Not, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you able to stick around after? I
Yes,
want to
yes.
talk with you after.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Members, that is the end of our agenda, so we will go into decision-making. Thank you. We are into decision-making. Members, the first recommendation, do you have the voting sheets? Voting sheets? Recommendation for 2817. This is for the Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture, asking for the 5 positions. Recommend that we pass with amendments, that we change the APT to faculty, and that the funding would be through general funds instead of special funding. And I think we have in here of statewide, if we need to, right, statewide concern, and then technical and non-substantive amendments for clarity and consistency. Any discussion, members? Hearing none, Vice Chair?
Senate Bill 2817 to pass with amendments. Chair Kim.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Favela, excused. Measures adopted.
Thank you. Members, for Senate Bill 2008 and Senate Bill 2105, going to recommend that we defer these measures. I'm very sensitive to people being able to afford tuition, but I believe the university have the ability to do these waivers, and they have to balance, we give them X amount of money and they have to use their tuition funds for a lot of things. And so if we're not going to fund them, then it's very difficult. So at this point, the deferral for 2008 to 2105, any discussion, any opposition? Thank you. 3187, relating to the Hawaii resident tuition fee. Yeah, I did say that. Okay, let me finish this one up. Okay. This is the 4-year, where a resident, if they go away within 4 years, they can come back and have the resident tuition. So the recommendation is to pass this as is. Any discussion? Hearing none. Vice Chair?
Senate Bill 3187 to pass unamended. Chair.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Favela, excused. Measures adopted.
Thank you. Going back to, there was a question asked of me by staff on Senate Bill 2817. We don't, I believe I said that of statewide concern, that measure either is in there or will be go in. So is that what you're asking me about? I believe I said that. So, okay. And if I didn't, it's said. Okay, we are on Senate Bill 2055, and this is on the summer tuition pilot program. Being the fact that you folks are already working on that, and I'm of the policy that we shouldn't put in laws just to put it in. So if it's already being done, and you will send us a report. So in case it's not done, then we can revisit this next year. Thank you very much for that. So the recommendation is to defer. Members, any discussion? Hearing none, thank you. For Senate Bill 2970, this is for the Waianae Moku, and, I'm very, very supportive, and I believe every member on the committee is sensitive to our students, especially those who have difficulty and cannot gain access to FAFSA and so forth. There are a lot of issues there. However, it's noted the difficulty in identifying them, the difficulty in being offered equal financial for around the island and not just a specific part of the island, as well as the administration and the cost for this. Unfortunately, we don't have enough money for everything. So I'm going to recommend, again, we deferred this measure and hopefully have some other thoughts and ideas that we can come up with to address this population. And finally, on Senate Bill 2946, requiring the legislature to submit an annual report on all employees who perform work from an outside location, outside of the state. Recommendation was passed with amendments. We will add in language that says this report will cover employees that exceed 60 consecutive days outside of the state. Okay, any discussion, any questions? Hearing none. Vice Chair, Chair votes aye.
For Senate Bill 2946, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Favela excused, measures adopted, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That is no other business. We are adjourned.